Now, this is a story all about how Wolfie's life got turned upside down, and I'd like to take a minute, just sit right there, and I'll tell you all about what happened with Wolfie's channel. It was February or something, and Wolfie was at work when suddenly they all started yelling and went berserk. In the blink of an eye, the workplace shut down, leaving Wolfie with no income and food. In the end, he was forced to move back home, abandoning the life he had got accustomed to, getting his ass on a plane to move back to Sweden. After an uneventful flight, the wolf was home, unpacking all his things in his childhood home. And after all that, things are coming along. So before it gets old, I'm gonna end this song.
With the Borf on our side and Eldritch in our possession, we're heading into the final week of Secret Slayers, along with this old piece of the package. Get that the fuck out of here. The last sets, or possibly the last opening entirely of this series of Secret Slayers. It all depends on if my package arrives on time. If not, this is the final time you'll see my hands for a good while, so enjoy them. Let's dig into Secret Slayers. Welcome back to Shaddoll from scratch, where we yet again go looking for the brother of our golden boy. If we find him, the deck is about as good as it's gonna get. Let's begin. Raptite. Golden Land Forever is interesting, but not great. Second Traptrix, definitely. Illblood. Primorla, the Rika Fairy. No. I will take the Traptrix, even though I don't think I'm ever gonna run them. They're nice. I like to have them. Could be cool to experiment with if I do something else off screen, you know. Polynosis, Titanial, Leonite, Hellbore, Ricochet. Damn it. There's only 5 packs remaining. We need a lot more to make this good, but an Eldritch is the thing we want the most. DD Borderline, Quackhammer Overload, Third Solemn Judgment, Erica the Rika Fairy, and our playset of Hack is completed. Not necessarily the one we want to have completed. I'd much rather have one of the other ones, but who am I to complain, right? It's at least guacky hacky. Let us proceed. Band Dragon, Sunflower Woman, Rose Woman, Lone Fire Blossom. Our Guardian playset's complete. Yay! Sarcastic. Alright. 3 packs left. Raptite, Kanashi, another Upstart Goblin, looks cool. Nine-tailed Fox, Eldorado Atladano, or Adeltando, Ratatatata, it's bad. Oh, come on. Come on, come on, come on. 2 packs, 1 more Eldritch, please. Kazashi the Rika Queen, Cherry Blossoms, DD Borderline, Illblood. Oh, it's another Dragite. Okay, so we only have 1 Elixir of Scarlet Sanguine. We have, I believe, 1 Conquistador, which is just sad. We have 1 Eldritch the Golden Lord. If this is an Eldritch, that is the best possible outcome. If it is a Conquistador, that's not bad. And if it's a Scarlet Sanguine, it is not bad. But this is the final pack of Secret Slayers. Let us begin. Fuck. Well, we have 4 of those now. Pyramid of Wonders. Princess of Autumn Leaves. Rika Petal. Emancipator Analyzer. Oh, disappointed. Okay, so for the final opening, we do manage to score ourselves the last hack hero, but it doesn't do what we want it to do. It really doesn't. We completely finish our Solemn Judgment playsets. We finish our Guardian of the Golden Land, which is bad. We get ourselves an Upstart Goblin and a Traptrix, but that marks the end of our Secret Slayer's journey. That sucks. We do get an Eldritch at the very least, though, and having one is definitely better than having a 0, but I would have wanted 2. That is very unfortunate, but this is the way of Sealed Only. We make do with what we have, and I'll see you for what is most possibly the final deck build we'll ever run.
So for game number 1 today, we're playing up against something that we've seen multiple times and basically have always lost against. True Draco. Starting off with Disciples of the True Draco Phoenix, going into setting a couple of cards, activating the effect of Disciples in order to sack it, in order to get themselves the big chunky boy. Our opponent then decides to activate Lose 1 turn, which we don't really care about, as we're going to fire off our Heavy Storm Duster. What am I talking about? It's Harpy's Feather Duster. I don't even know card names anymore. We do unfortunately have to set our cards this turn, as we don't really have a chance to stand back as a 2,500 beater just yet, but it should be fine. Our opponent simply sets 1 cards and activates Pot of Duality, which is going to draw him into March of the Monarchs, which kind of sucks for us, actually. He goes into the battle phase, attacking straight into our Shaddoll Wendy, which we flip up, and of course we activate that wonderful effect to draw ourselves Beast. Beast in this case is going to help us thin out our hand once we flip it back up on our turn, hoping for the best. We do exactly that as we flip open the Beast in order to draw 2 cards, which he chains into True Draco Apocalypse, but we don't really care as we get a dragon, so we can pop the March of the Monarchs. We normal summon our Alistair, activating Alistair effects, which flips open a True Draco Apocalypse, meaning there's now 2 of them. We use our Infinite Impermanence to cancel the first one, which is forced to activate the second one, which is fine for us. With our 2 monsters now on the board, he decides to use the effect to pop the Alistair, which we kind of expected, and then we're stupid and activate Monster Reborn in the Reborn column. We then get ourselves a Construct anyway, sitting Aerial face down in order to try and do our combo, but yet again, not having played Yu-Gi-Oh! In about 3 weeks and a half now that I've returned to my home, I kind of fuck up again. I go for the cross-shape effect, but our opponent scoops anyway, so I guess that's fine. Game number 2, now having sighted in basically most of our hate and removal for this type of deck, as our opponent decides to go straight for the Upstart Goblin, giving us 1,000 life points. He then decides to set himself a couple of cards, which is kind of expected from True Draco, and then ends his turn. He does flip open Summon Limit, but in this specific case we don't care, as we fire off our Twin Twister to block out the 2 other back row, turning out to be Solemn Strike, and there can only be 1. We fire off our Red Eyes Fusion from hand, bringing out Daddy Dragoon once again, because he is the best beater we have in this current situation under Summon Limit, and probably in the deck as a whole. We end our turn on nothing but Dragoon, but knowing that Dragoon can stop most of what they want to achieve here, we simply sent it as that. Our opponent then sets the remainder of their hand, now having 4 set cards with Summon Limit, as we go into our turn, and he flips open True Draco Apocalypse. Apocalypse in this specific case doesn't do much, as Dragoon can't be targeted, so we go for the Magical Meltdown, which flips open a True King's Return. We don't really care about this either, I don't think. We go straight into the battle phase as we negate the 2 Draco's Apocalypse in order to get ourselves a massive 1,000 attack boost, attacking into our opponent once again, leaving him at 1,000 life points, passing turn with him having nothing. He activates Pot of Duality off the top, which we hit with an Ash, and that, my friends, is going to be game. I can't believe we freaking beat True Draco for once. Given he bricked incredibly hard, but you know what? I'm not going to complain. So game number 2 is a bit of a weird one. This is going to be a 1-game match, as our opponent went AFK after the first game. Our opponent starts off with simply setting 2 cards face down and passing it to us, where our hand is kind of hot garbage. We go for Terraforming, going into Magical Meltdown, activating Meltdown to draw into our Alistair, normal summoning the Alistair, of course, because we're a good invoked player over here, which gets hit with a Herald of the Orange Light. He then goes after Cosmic Cyclone, hitting the Magical Meltdown, which is kind of interesting, but yeah, that leaves our field incredibly empty. We're forced to simply set 2 cards from our hand and pass turn, hoping that he doesn't have any retort. He then draws into his card for turn, going into Pot of Prosperity, which we can do nothing about, as we find out that this is in fact a Madolche deck, and oh boy, he goes into Hootcake, attempting to activate the Hootcake effect, which we hit immediately with the Infinite Impermanence. We're not dealing with Hootcake. Hootcake, however, gets to punch us for 1,500 in the face, which I guess is as good as Hootcake can do. He passes turn back to us, and at this point, we do have a play with our Eldritch. We activate the Eldritch effect to pop the back row, which turns out to be Gravedigger's Trap Hole, but we don't really care that it's negated, and we take 2,000, which is fine. We activate Eldritch from the graveyard in order to bring him back out to the field as a big chungus, normal summoning our Wendy, and then special summoning our Hat-Tricker from hand, using them to go into Daddy Dragoon, and you can probably guess where this is going. Well, it's an OTK. That's where this is going. If you didn't know that by this point, have you even been watching the series, buddy? We go in for the kill, and we take this game 2-0 as the second game our opponent went AFK and timed out. Quite unfortunate, because this could have been a fun matchup to see, but hey, we take those. For game number 3, we're playing a deck that we haven't seen for quite some time, which is going to be Traptrix. Our opponent activates Pot of Prosperity right off the gate in order to get into Traptrix Mermello, but he decides to reveal the Phantom Knights of Shade Brigade as he has a Mantis in hand already. He uses Mantis' effect and then links it off into Sarah, setting a bazillion cards, as you could probably guess, one of them being the drawn Phantom Knights of Shade Brigade. Sarah activates its effect in order to bring back Mermello thanks to a trap card activating, then activating the effect of Mermello and Sarah once more in order to set himself a Gravedigger's Trap Hole, setting himself another card, and going into Time Thief Redoer. I want to have him so bad because he's fun, but I digress. He steals a Shaddoll fusion off the top as he activates our Harpy's Feather Dust and attempting to activate our Magical Meltdown, which gets ashed immediately as we are forced to use Foolish Burial in order to throw a Wendy to set a beast onto the field, then setting ourselves a Falco face down as it's the only play we currently have. Redoer steals another card off the top, but using the Shaddoll fusion, he draws himself a card, normal summoning into Mantis, activating the effect of Dionea, and we're off to the freaking races. He sets himself another Gravedigger's Trap Hole, going into number 39 Utopia, and then eventually linking off into number 39 the Lightning. He goes into the battle phase, attacking a beast with the lightning so that no effect can be activated, meaning we don't get to draw any cards, so we can't really come back from this. He then goes into his Time Thief Redoer on our standby phase. We flip open the Falco in hopes that we can do anything. We set ourselves a beast again, knowing that it can just be hit by our poor old Utopia once again, but we are able to special summon our Trick Clown at this point, and we have to go into our Nightmare Phoenix to pop the back row, because Redoer can simply spin a card back because it is currently holding a trap card. We attempt to beat over Sarah, and then just that happens, the Nightmare Phoenix is spun back. We kind of expected this, but there's not really much we can do about it. He then goes for the Redoer effect once again, pulling the Invocation off the top, which is horrible for us because that could have been a saving grace. Dionea comes out and Sarah gets to activate its effect again, setting himself a Floodgate Trap Hole, which is also kind of bad for us, but then using Mantis' effect to spin it back to the hand. Utopia is going to attack our face down, which turns out to be Dragon. That does not get an effect here, which is fine, which means our Beast is going to allow us to draw a few cards. Hopefully drawing into something that can actually save us, but no, not really. We use the effect of Wendy to set ourselves a Shaddoll Hedgehog, hoping we can at least get a Fusion Summon off here, because that could be something we could do. Hedgehog is attacked by Sarah, it's going to be destroyed, but we do draw ourselves a Shaddoll Fusion, and hope for the best. We then take 1500 from, Mantis sitting over there being cool, but hey, what can you do? Our opponent then sets himself more cards, because he is playing Traptrix. There are a lot of traps in that deck. We go to draw phase. We get a card stolen, we attack him to activate, and we get hit with Imperial Order, which means we are boned. We go into game number 2. Now that we know what we're up against, we've sighted in most of the things that could be useful for us as we go for our Terraforming, attempting to go first, but it gets immediately ashed, and we're forced to just set our Dragon and pass. Yikes. On this, though, our opponent goes for the Traptrix Mermello, activating the effect to get into Gravedigger's Trap Hole once again, then linking off into Sarah, which is to be expected, setting himself in a complete array of cards, because that's what Traptrix do, and then passing turn back to us. At this point, we flip open our Twin Twister, attempting to hit 2 of the back row, which we do, which turns out to be Ice Dragon's Prison and Gravedigger's Trap Hole, which is kind of good. We flip open our Dragon, attempting to return one more card from his face down back to his hand, normal summoning our Falco and able to go into our Predapant Vertianaconda now that we don't think he has anything in the back row. Turns out, he doesn't. We're free to go into our Dragoon once again in order to blow up his Sarah and just go in for a big chunk of damage, hoping he can't really do much else. We go in for a 3,500 points of poking with an Eldritch in hand in case something goes incredibly sour. At this point, we pass our turn back to our opponent, hoping he's able to not retort, and he gets a Mermello again, which is dangerous, going into Sarah once more. But at this point, all he does is set a card, pass. He goes into the battle phase first to punch over our big snaky boy, which is unfortunate but expected. Then ends his turn, and that doesn't really look great for him. We do decide to use the Dragoon effect, which is going to summon Shade Knights of Brigadine, which we don't necessarily care about because this is still lethal. We use his effect to kill Sarah in order to deal 800 points of damage to his face, destroy the Brigadine with our Dragoon effect, and punch him for 3k in order to take game number 2. Game number 3, and we're hoping for a repeat of game number 2 if possible, because this matchup is not fun. Our opening hand does not have any back row removal either, so we're kind of stuck in the shitter. Our opponent decides to set himself a grand total of his entire goddamn hand as he passes turn to us. Immediately on the standby phase, we're hit with the worst spell card we can face, or sorry, trap card, the Anti-Spell Fragrance. It affects spell cards, you know what I mean. At this point, we are forced to set nearly our entire hand to attempt to use it next turn, which is horrible. We then also set the aerial in order to have a super poly target pass the turn, and we get hit with a heavy storm duster. Thankfully for us, it doesn't take out the super poly, meaning we still have a threat live in case he summons something, but he doesn't, and he still has 5 back row. A feather dust storm by debut would have been great right here, but no. We set ourselves our entire hand again, and we just leave aerial face down because we don't really want to be poking him too much. He simply passes turn on that as we draw into Raigeki, so we simply pass the turn back to him, where he simply passes turn back to us. And at this point, I'm going to take the chance in order to plug my Patreon. If you want to support the show in the upcoming season 2, as well as any other series that I do, feel free to check it out. The link is in the description, and any support helps, especially now that I don't have a job anymore. Our opponent then simply hits us with the different dimension ground to banish anything that is sent to the graveyard. As he takes 1800 damage from the Scombata, sets a card on his turn, activates the same card again as he passes to us, and we draw Dragon. So we activate Dragon, and here I fuck up royally. He hits us with a Torrential Tribute, so I activate our Super Poly, but I misclick the wrong card and accidentally go for Abkalone instead of Winda. If I would have gone into Winda, it would not have been destroyed by TT, and we could have continued playing, but my misclick basically costs us the game here. Our opponent then fills his back row once more with cards in his hand, now leaving it back to 5 once again, as we draw into a Clown. We normal summon our Clown, hoping to be able to do something with it, but is hit with a Dogmatica Punishment. At this point, he throws Titanclad as well, which really sucks for us. Gravedigger's Draco stops us from fetching yet another card, as we're stuck with our goddamn dinosaur in hand with nothing to do. We pass our turn to our opponent, who simply sets yet another card and passes it back to us. We draw into Ash Blossom, which does us fuck all as we end our turn. Our opponent then finally decides to draw into something that does something and summons Dionea, which is going to link off into Sarah once again, activating Parallel Exceed, which we are forced at this point to Ash. Ashing it brings him to the battle phase, where we're going to take the fat stack of 1800 with nothing to really retort here, as we hope and pray for a draw that can save us. He then goes into Nadir's Servant, which is going to completely dominate us, as he has Dogmatic Ecclesia, hitting our Monster Reborn that we wished to use, using Entis. At this point, there are very, very little things we can do, but we have to go for what we have. We go for our Pankratops, and here we have a Foolish Burial, which we can get into Eldritch using. It gets hit with punishment, which is expected. We hit the Anti-Spell Fragrance, but it turns out he has a second one that he top-decked last turn, and at this point there is not much we can do, as we are forced to take a loss against Traptrix. That's unfortunate. But that is going to be it for this episode. Now you may wonder, hey, where's the viewer duel this week? Well, next week we're going to have nothing but viewer duels as we tackle out the final few that registered for the viewer duels when the season started. Stay tuned for that, because that's probably going to be the most interesting duels we're going to see in a while, because God knows what we'll find there. But on the other hand, we are approaching the finale of this series. Episodes 28, 29, and 30 are going to go over the Dragoon Cup, the final statement we're making for this deck, and it's been an experience both organizing and playing within it. Look forward to it. On the other hand, if you enjoyed this particular episode, I'd like to thank you for watching as always. Remember to click the subscribe button if you'd like to see more of what I do. If you want to support me, there's always the Patreon. And hey, if you just want to have a chat with me, check out the Discord in the link below, because hey, we spend a lot of time with that and we have a great community over there in case you're wanting some friends, or just, you know, want to spam Can't Kill You on the Zillion for 5 hours, which is also okay, I suppose. Regardless of that, I hope you have a wonderful day and or evening, and remember to stay safe out there.